These are spring clamps. I use them a lot. They're something that you can pick up at the hardware store. You can use them to support things. You can use them to make nice reflectors. And I think that if you are doing any kind of work with flash, you should add some of these if you don't already have them. So, hi, my name is Steve. I'm an amateur photographer. I like to use old studio equipment, old flashes, old packs and monoblocks, stuff that would have been used in a studio 20 or 30 years ago. So today, I want to kind of continue this idea of making soft professional light, but in this case, it's going to be to introduce a couple of other concepts, as well as the practical solution would be, how do you make this if you work in a really small space? So the end result that we're going to put together here is something that you could probably fit on top of a table and still get some really 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 soft light. So the clamps, the A clamps here, the bigger ones are 2 inches, the smaller ones are an inch. You can get them at a Home Depot or get them at Lowe's. They're going to be used to hold up the foam core. The foam core you can get at any place you find school supplies or an art supply store. I like two different flavors, certainly the white to bounce light, as well as black to subtract light. I'm going to use both today. And what we're going to do is make a miniature, if you will, V-flat. And the V-flat is then going to have a piece of diffusion paper in front of it, or it could be diffusion cloth. And that combination is going to bounce the light into the V-flat and then pull it back through the diffusion and make the nice soft light that I'm telling you that this is capable of. And just for a moment on the V-flat, you can see here that my board is kind of old, or boards, and they're warped, and there's a nice seam in the middle of them, and that really doesn't matter. I have enough light from my strobe that that light leak isn't going to hurt. And I find that this is just a really easy way to get one of these set up by using the clamps. So the other pieces that are in this equation, or I guess if you were to try to think, well, how do you build it up? The foam board, the whiteboard here, I don't know what it is, maybe 3 feet by 2 feet. I didn't really measure it. It's what I have laying around. There's a flash head that's jammed inside of it. And then I also have a light stand with a grip head and then a grip arm. And the reason for the grip arm is, let's see if I can find it. Here it is. I have a roll of trace paper, which you can see is adding the diffusion. And the trace paper is, I don't know, I got it 10 years ago on Amazon. It may be used by architects, art students. A roll of it's not that expensive. I've had it for 10 years. I'm going to have it for another 10. It doesn't wear out. And I simply put it in front of the V-flat. So that is today how I'm going to choose to diffuse the light. You could use diffusion cloth. You could use an old shower curtain. You could use a bed sheet. Depending on the thickness of the material, it's going to take more stops of light out from whatever kind of flash that you're using. This stuff is fairly translucent. And the result of this, if you would imagine that I have the trace paper in front of it, this is the starting image. It's a old tripod head. I love this head. It's made by a company called Slik, S-L-I-K. I think it's called their Universal Ball Head, and this thing's old, but it works great. But the thing that sticks out to me here is that there's a fair amount of light spill coming out of the basic setup. So the background is all, got light on it. There's a plant behind here, which is all illuminated. And you can sort of see the plant there. And the way we're going to control the light spill is to add a couple of more pieces of the foam core. So the first piece is black, and it is going to go at the back of the V flat. When I say back, I just mean the not not at the pointy V part, but at the back edge of the V flat, if you will. And the other thing that I'm doing is putting a piece of cardboard over the top of the V flat. So this is the image without the cardboard on the top or the black cardboard on the side, and the black cardboard is held up using these same spring clamps. Um, and by adding those, then the light, the spill is dramatically cut down. It's almost entirely gone. Um, and what you can see is a little bit of light bleeding in through our window, but you've kind of gone from this to this by adding a couple of pieces of cardboard and a couple of more spring clamps. This is the sort of final setup for how this works. This is almost to the size that you could put it onto a table. You could make it a little bit smaller and use a speed light and put it on a table, if you will, if you don't have a lot of light stands. And just put your product next to it on the table. You can also make this really, really big. And by making it big, you can get a really nice, large source of light for not a lot of money. And the other thing that's nice about this is because you're basically dealing with a roll of paper, you're dealing with flat boards of cardboard. You can stow it away easily. So if you're in an apartment or something, you could hide it behind a couch or under a couch or whatever. So I hope that helps. I hope this gets you to think of different ways that you might be able to control the light, and also kind of encourage you to think that you don't necessarily need to invest in a lot of lighting equipment in order to make this. Certainly, if you have soft boxes, they're great. I have a ton of them. You don't need to sort of construct your own as we have here. But if you scale this up and make it large, then you may not want that softbox because it's going to be expensive. Or buying it used is not going to be the easiest thing because there's not a ton of them around for sale. So the other thing that I would say is that the foam core, the white stuff, you can clamp that to a light pole, and it's a reflector. And it's a really cheap reflector. And likewise, the black foam core, you can clamp that to a light pole and it becomes nice negative fill. And it's really inexpensive negative fill. So you don't necessarily need the dedicated reflectors to do this. And in fact, if you take a look at how films are shot or videos or music videos, and behind the scenes, you'll see all sorts of stuff like this coming out. And being used as the director of photography and as the the grip and the gaffer build out the set. They're using much more beyond just the basic light in order to get it shaped. And I think a lot of times photographers don't necessarily take the time to build this stuff out. But you can do that if you want, and it's not that expensive, and you'll learn a lot about light in the process. Let me know if you have any questions or if this is something that you'd like to see more of. I'm kind of at this point tempted to try to talk more about how I put these pieces of equipment together to do the photography that I enjoy. I know I put several videos out about some of the older equipment that I've used, but it's great to talk about the equipment, but I think it's also interesting to see practical ways that it can be used.